You don't even belong here anymore. None of this is yours. You were just hired help with a marriage license. Thomas Parker's voice thundered through the icy air outside the county courthouse. Now you're fired. Get out. His words sliced deeper than the cold. The judge had made his ruling barely 5 minutes earlier. 15 years of marriage, building a home, building a life, supporting him through every failed business attempt. All gone. Because of the prenup I signed when I was young, stupid, and in love. Now I, Evelyn Parker, 45 years old, community center administrator, wife of a respected man in Edgewood County, stood with nothing. No house. No savings. Not even the car I'd paid half for. Thomas hurled the only item the court allowed me, a small gym bag, straight into a pile of gray slush. The straps instantly soaked through. Take your trash, he barked, loud enough that people across the parking lot turned their heads. And don't show up anywhere near my property. Security has instructions. Come within 300 feet and they'll escort you off. Hard. I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. The passenger window of Thomas's expensive black SUV rolled down just an inch. Rachel, my son Daniel's 22-year-old wife, peeked out from behind her glossy blonde hair. She looked uncomfortable, like she hated being part of this but didn't dare contradict her mother. Sitting beside her was Margaret Davis, my son's mother-in-law and the most controlling woman I'd ever met. The retired principal who still treated people like misbehaving students. Margaret smirked. Well, she said loudly, at least this family finally cleaned out the clutter. Rachel didn't laugh, but Margaret's words were enough. Thomas climbed in, slammed the door, and sped away. The SUV sprayed icy slush across my boots as they disappeared down the street. My throat tightened. My vision blurred. For a moment I couldn't move. I walked without thinking until I reached the nearest bus stop, knowing full well I didn't have enough money for a ticket. My fingers dug into my coat pockets, searching for anything. All I found were 2 quarters and a gum wrapper. I sat down on the freezing bench, hugging my knees to my chest, trying to steady my breathing. This morning I'd brewed mint tea for court, stupidly believing justice still existed. Now I had nothing. No home. No job security. No husband. No pride. A rough, painful cough dragged my attention to the other end of the bench. An elderly man in ragged clothing sat hunched over, shivering violently. His coat was just a thin layer of torn fabric, hardly protection from the biting 20-degree cold. He didn't look at me. He wasn't begging for help. He looked like someone moments away from collapsing. I hesitated, staring down at my warm pashmina scarf, one of the last gifts from my late mother. The only thing Thomas hadn't taken from me. My hands moved before my fear could stop them. I slid closer. Here, I said quietly, wrapping the scarf around his trembling shoulders. The man jolted as if startled. When he looked at me, his eyes, light gray, sharp, were startlingly clear. Not the eyes of a broken man. Still, he whispered, Miss, you'll freeze. I'll manage, I murmured, tightening the scarf around him like I'd done for Thomas 1,000 times on winter mornings. Hold still. Then I handed him my thermos. Drink. It's warm. His fingers were stiff, but he lifted the cup to his lips. Steam rose up, softening the deep lines on his face. Each sip steadied him. His shaking slowed. The scarf trapped the heat around him. He finished the tea carefully, as if the thermos were made of glass. Then something changed. The man sat up straighter, shoulders back, chin lifted. The fragile trembling elder disappeared. In front of me stood someone entirely different. A lot of people walked past you today, he said calmly, voice steady, authoritative. Not one of them offered kindness. Not until you. I blinked. His presence felt powerful, commanding. He stood, adjusting the scarf around his neck with a surprising decisiveness. I don't forget kindness, he said. And I always repay it. Come with me, Evelyn. I stiffened. How do you know my name? He only gave a small, knowing smile. Get up. I'll show you your new home. New home? He sounded insane. And yet, something in his tone held authority that made obedience feel natural. Against all logic, I picked up my damp gym bag and followed him. We walked about 200 yards, turned the corner onto Liberty Avenue, and stopped in front of an enormous stone mansion, the kind people whispered about. The kind no one had lived in for a decade. The Davis family mansion, Margaret's estate, sat directly across from it. Just my luck. The abandoned mansion's gates were wrapped in chains. The windows boarded. The yard untouched for years. Yet the old man walked right up to the rusted intercom panel. Before I could question him, I heard a slow engine behind us. A familiar one. Thomas's black SUV rolled inches from the curb. He lowered his window with a smug grin. Well, well. Look at this, he mocked. Evelyn's already found someone more her level. Margaret laughed. Rachel looked mortified. The old man didn't even glance at them. He removed his ragged glove, typed a long code into the keypad. Beep. 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 A green light flashed. With a low hum, the heavy iron gates slid open as smoothly as brand new machinery. Thomas's smirk vanished. The SUV hit the curb, bumped forward, and slammed into a lamp post with a loud metallic thud. The old man gestured toward the open gate. Go on, he said gently. Don't be afraid. And for the first time that day, I dared to hope. I stepped onto the property, aware of Thomas's stunned stare burning into my back. The iron gates groaned shut behind us, sealing the world, and my old life, on the other side. The courtyard was enormous. Up close, the abandoned mansion was even more imposing than it looked from the street, aged, weathered, but still regal. Like a sleeping beast waiting for someone to wake it. The old man, no, not old anymore, turned to me. He removed the filthy beanie from his head, and beneath it, his gray hair was neatly trimmed. Suddenly, he looked like someone with a past that mattered. My name is Aaron Mitchell, he said calmly, with a firmness that made the air shift. And I'm not a drifter, Evelyn. Not a squatter. Not a homeless man. He reached into the inside of his tattered coat and pulled out an oversized ring of keys. I own this estate, and the land under it. My breath hitched. He nodded toward the fence line where Thomas's gaudy 3-story mansion stood, the one with the ridiculous fake golden lion statues out front. Your ex-husband thinks he's untouchable, Aaron said, a chilling smile tugging at his lips. But he forgot one thing. He slid a key into the massive oak door. The lock clicked open like it had been waiting for him. Thomas took out a massive loan to build that vanity project across the street. The mortgage, the land, the house, everything was collateral. I froze. He hasn't paid in 6 months, Aaron continued. He assumed his connections at City Hall would make the bank look the other way. He pushed open the door and stepped inside. But 1 month ago, a private investor bought his overdue debt. He looked straight into my eyes. That investor is me. Thomas Parker is living in my house, and I decide how long he keeps it. My legs nearly gave out. I stepped inside. The heavy oak door slammed shut behind us, muting Thomas's distant shouting. Inside, the air smelled like old stone, dust, and forgotten time. The grand foyer soared upward, disappearing in darkness. Aaron flipped a switch, and the ancient chandelier flickered before bursting into light, scattering reflections across shrouded furniture. The place felt like a kingdom trapped in glass. Aaron walked into the center of the hall. His footsteps echoed with authority. "There are 30 rooms here," he said, turning slowly. "No one's lived in this house for a decade." He lifted his chin, standing straighter, taller, stronger. "I stayed in the gardener's cottage out back," he said. "Waiting. Watching your husband build his empire on lies." The words made the room feel colder. "But now," he continued, "the time has come." He turned to me, eyes sharp, assessing. "I don't need cleaning staff, Evelyn. I can hire workers for pennies, and they'll steal half my pantry." His tone softened. "What I need is a manager. Someone who can bring this house back to life." My heart pounded. "The kitchen is yours. The freezers work. Generator runs weekly. Groceries are stocked." A pause. "And I need someone who will feed this house the way you fed that freezing man on the bench, with soul." His voice dropped gently. "Do you agree?" My throat tightened. I had nothing. And suddenly, I was being handed everything. "Yes," I whispered, then stronger, "I agree." A satisfied nod. "Good. Your room is upstairs, first door on the right. Hot water is working. Clean up and meet me in the kitchen. I'll be in the study reviewing paperwork." I didn't waste a second. Upstairs, the hot shower washed off the humiliation clinging to my skin. I changed into a clean robe I found in the closet and headed down to the massive kitchen. It stopped me cold. Professional-grade ranges. Copper pots hanging above a marble island. Industrial freezers. A walk-in pantry. Dust-coated perfection. I found flour, eggs, butter, yeast, ingredients that felt like old friends. My hands remembered every movement before my mind did. Kneading dough became my therapy. I punched it, folded it, pressed it, each movement releasing the anger inside me. Anger at Thomas. At Margaret. At the system. At the humiliation. 2 hours later, the entire house smelled like warm bread and savory pies. It felt alive again. Across the street, through the window, I saw Thomas's panic. He was pacing in his yard, yelling into his phone. He recognized Aaron. Of course he did. 15 years ago, when Thomas was a rising contractor, he had tricked an aging factory owner into signing over his business, promising lifelong care. Then he bankrupted the factory, stole the assets, and spread rumors the old man had become a drunk who wandered off and died. He never died. He was standing in my kitchen eating a meat pie. Panic crashed over Thomas's face. Within minutes, blue lights flashed across the street. 2 police cruisers pulled up to the mansion gates. Thomas sprinted toward them like a man possessed. "Break the gates down," Thomas shouted. "There are criminals in there, my ex-wife and some lunatic homeless guy. They're dangerous." I wiped my hands, smoothed my hair. Aaron, now sitting calmly in an armchair, handed me a folder with an embossed seal. "Your first test," he said. "Go." The cold evening air hit my face as I stepped onto the porch. Neighbors gathered behind fences, hungry for drama. The police captain, a heavy man with a red face, beat his baton against the iron gate. "Open up. This is the police. Come out with your hands visible." Thomas cackled beside him. "She's trespassing. Arrest her now. She's destroying my property." I pressed a button on the control panel. The gates slid open silently. Captain Miller froze mid-swing. I didn't come out crying. I didn't come out broken. I didn't come out begging. I stepped out tall, wearing a perfectly clean robe and apron, holding a polished silver tray covered with a linen cloth. Good evening, Captain Miller, I said warmly, loud enough for every gossiping neighbor. Why all the shouting? You'll scare the doe, it might not rise properly. Thomas choked. She set this up. Arrest her. Captain Miller, I interrupted smoothly, offering the folder without looking at Thomas. Please review this. It's the property deed and a general power of attorney from the owner, Mr. Aaron Mitchell. I am the legally appointed estate manager. The captain blinked, then read the documents, turning them under his flashlight. After a long moment, he straightened. The documents are in order, he said stiffly. This estate belongs to Mr. Mitchell. Evelyn Parker is within her rights to be here. Thomas went red, blotches spreading across his face. This is fake. Mitchell is dead. Watch your language, Mr. Parker, the captain snapped. I lifted the linen cloth. The aroma of freshly baked meat pies drifted into the cold air. The officer's expressions softened instantly. It's freezing out here, I said kindly. Would you like something warm? The owner invites you inside for tea and something warm, I said calmly, lifting the linen cloth from the tray. The snacks are fresh out of the oven. The officers exchanged surprised glances. The buttery smell drifting from the tray was impossible to resist. Captain Miller swallowed hard, openly tempted. Well, if the documents are in order, he drawled, reaching out and taking a pie, then naturally, we must interview the residents. Behind him, Thomas stood frozen, mouth opening and closing like a hooked fish on a frozen lake. His humiliation was absolute. The neighborhood watched. His police backup, his attack dogs, were now eating out of my hand. You'll regret this, Thomas hissed quietly as I stepped aside for the officers to enter. His voice trembled with rage. I'll destroy you, Evelyn. You have nothing. Not a dime to your name. You're nobody. A cold calm rolled through me. I remembered everything. The late nights he worked overtime, while secretly taking Tiffany on trips. The days he'd hide his phone, locking himself in his office. The way he lied about low profits while buying jewelry on credit. I leaned toward Captain Miller, who was savoring my pie, and said in a clear voice. Actually, Captain, my ex-husband is right. You should be vigilant. He's very concerned about the law today. The captain paused mid-bite. Why is he nervous? He asked. Well, I said sweetly, you could ask him about the safe. Thomas froze. The one behind the hunters in the woods painting in his home office. The one coded to his mistress's birthday. The crowd gasped. That's where he keeps the black ledger for his construction company, I added. Cash earnings, not a single cent of tax paid. About $5 million, if I'm not mistaken. Thomas went white, palest Snow White. The captain stopped chewing. Slowly, he turned toward Thomas. The friendliness vanished. The predatory glint of an officer who smelled a career-making case appeared instead. Mr. Parker, he said smoothly, wiping his hands with a napkin, how about we take a little ride to your place? Check out this tip. I smiled and walked back into the warm house, leaving Thomas alone with the law he had invited. The next morning, chaos arrived faster than the sunrise. By 8 a.m., every one of Thomas's bank accounts was frozen. The IRS moved like they'd been waiting for this exact tip. From my kitchen window, I watched a courier hand him a notice. Thomas crumpled it, throwing it into the snow. But inside the house across the street, another storm brewed, Tiffany. Her voice pierced through even our insulated windows. You promised me a mink coat, Marcus. You promised the Maldives this week. Why is my card declined at the salon? I look like a scarecrow. She shrieked, throwing something, glass shattered. Marcus tried calming her, mumbling about temporary setbacks, but she drowned him out. And by noon, The whole town knew. Rumors spread like wildfire. Marcus Parker is bankrupt. His ego couldn't survive it. So he pulled a desperate stunt. He announced a massive engagement party for Tiffany. An over-the-top spectacle meant to silence gossip. Invitations went out that evening to the town's elite, the mayor, district attorney, CEOs, business owners. A bluff. A last attempt to look powerful. I told all of this to Aaron later that night as he read his newspaper by the fireplace. He set it down, his eyes narrowing with sharp interest. So, Aaron mused, he's hosting a grand engagement. Perfect. He stood. Then we'll host something better. I blinked. But the house isn't even fully reopened, furniture is still covered. Remove the covers, he said. This Saturday we will host a charity winter ball. Admission is a donation to the local children's fund. He pointed a finger at me. And you will cook. Let the town remember whose food was truly the best in this region. Something fierce lit up inside me. I grabbed the phone and started calling my old suppliers, the ones I had worked with for a decade before Thomas pushed me out. Evelyn Parker, shouted Arturo from the butcher shop. Anything you need. Marcus owes me money for 3 months, but you? I trust. Uncle Jimmy the dairyman, Sam the fish supplier, the wine boutique owner. Every one of them said yes. They remembered me. They remembered who had actually run the business. While Marcus polished champagne glasses for 3 days straight, I worked like fire. 4 hours of sleep a night. All ovens blazing. Flaky salmon pastries. Slow-roasted geese with apples. Herbed mushroom pies. Cinnamon rolls. Fresh breads. The mansion breathed again, alive with warmth, vanilla, spice, and ambition. And across the street? Disaster simmered. Saturday night, the showdown. Marcus's driveway overflowed with luxury cars. Women in shimmering gowns rushed inside, trying to escape the bitter cold. Marcus greeted guests with a painful fake smile. Tiffany clung to his arm, showing off a ring the size of a jawbreaker, undoubtedly purchased on credit. At our house? Quiet elegance. We simply opened the gates and turned on every window light. The mansion glowed like a scene from a winter postcard. An hour passed. I watched from the living room window. Something was wrong across the street. Guests gathered in the entry hall, confused. No plates of food. No staff carrying trays. Then, the back door of Marcus's mansion burst open. His entire catering team, chefs in white hats, stormed out, carrying empty trays and boxes, climbing into a van. Aaron stepped beside me at the window. The catering walked out, he observed. Looks like his credit card failed there too. No deposit. And no one in this industry works on a handshake. Panic exploded inside their house. Glasses of cheap champagne. But no food. Hunger is dangerous, especially for the wealthy. Then the wind shifted. I cracked open the window. A wave of rich aroma, my mushroom and chicken pies, rolled across the street. I watched guests sniff the air like wolves. One by one, they left Marcus's porch. What is that smell? Someone gasped. Good Lord, that's real gourmet pot pie. The mayor broke first. Known gourmand. Zero hesitation. He stepped off Marcus's porch. Crossed the street. And approached our gates. Mr. Mitchell, he called out, spotting Aaron on the threshold. They say you're back, and that smell, my God, it's unbearable in the best way possible, the mayor laughed as he reached our porch. Come in, Peter, Aaron said warmly, sweeping his hand toward the entrance. We're hosting a charity evening. Dinner has just been served. And that. was the breaking point. The moment the mayor stepped through our doors, every guest across the street suddenly forgot all their loyalty to Thomas Parker. They abandoned his mansion like rats fleeing a sinking ship. Within 20 minutes, his house was empty. Only Thomas, an enraged Tiffany, and mountains of dirty glasses remained. Meanwhile, our home became the heart of the city. Laughter echoed. Music floated. People devoured my dishes like they hadn't eaten in days. They praised the roast goose, swooned over the pastries, closed their eyes tasting my cakes. For the first time in years, I wasn't invisible. I wasn't the wife. I wasn't the helper. I was the hostess. People shook my hand. Thanked me. Congratulated me. They looked awake, like they had finally snapped out of Thomas's spell. Among the guests was the city's chief architect, Arthur Davies, a distinguished older man with gentle eyes and a mind like steel. He stood near the panoramic window, finishing a slice of cherry pie. I approached to refill his tea, but his gaze was fixed outside, at Thomas's giant, spotlighted three-car garage. A frown cut sharply across his face. "Evelyn," he said quietly, not looking away. "Tell me, did Mr. Mitchell keep the original land documents? The old ones, pre-war blueprints?" "Of course," I answered. "There's a full archive in the study." "Why?" Arthur's jaw tightened with outrage, not bureaucratic anger, but the fury of a man who loves history. "I suspected as much," he muttered. When Thomas filed the project, he claimed that section was just empty land. He finally turned, raising his voice, loud enough that the entire hall fell silent. "Evelyn. Mr. Mitchell, do you know what your neighbor's vulgar garage is built on?" A hush spread through the room. Arthur pointed through the window. "Under that concrete lies the 18th century merchant's winter garden. A protected historical landmark. Building there was strictly forbidden." The room erupted in gasps. Destroying a historic site in our city wasn't a violation. It was sacrilege. "And there's more," Arthur continued, removing his glasses and wiping them slowly. "By the look of that boundary line, Mr. Parker's fence is at least 12 feet onto your property." A wave of whispers broke across the hall. "He didn't just build on a monument," Arthur said. "He built it on your land." The mayor set down his plate, his tone suddenly cold and official. "This is no longer an administrative case. This is a criminal offense. The garage must be demolished immediately, at the owner's expense." My breath caught. Across the street, Thomas stood beside his garage, tiny and furious, kicking a tire in frustration, completely unaware that, in this very moment, his fate was being sealed. Dawn, the following morning. The paperwork arrived before sunrise. The City Hall courier didn't knock. He simply taped the demolition notice onto the giant faux gold lion at Thomas's gate. A bright red stamp. "Unlawful construction." Glowed like a curse. Minutes later, chaos ripped through the Parker house. Thomas burst onto his porch wearing only a robe, screaming, tearing the notice, stomping it into the snow. But shouting can't undo concrete. And Thomas needed either a miracle, or something dirty. He chose something dirty. Half an hour later, I saw his gate crack open. Out slipped Brenda Parker, my former mother-in-law. She shuffled across the street, hunched beneath a shawl, glancing back constantly as if Thomas might shoot her for defecting. She rang the bell with shaking hands. "Evelyn, sweetheart," she wheezed. "It's me. Please. Please let me in. We must talk. Don't leave an old woman out in the cold." Aaron looked up from his coffee, raising a single eyebrow. "She's a Trojan horse," he warned. "I know," I whispered. "But she's still my ex-husband's mother, and the grandmother of my child. I can't leave her outside." I opened the gate. Brenda stumbled inside, gasping dramatically, clutching her chest like she'd crossed a battlefield. She smelled of mothballs mixed with expensive perfume, a nauseating combination of poverty and pretension. "Oh, Evelyn," she cried. "This place, it's a palace. A real palace. And our house is hell. Tiffany is a monster. She doesn't cook. The house is filthy. All she does is scream and demand money." She collapsed into a chair. "Marcus has lost weight. He looks terrible. He regrets everything." Her voice quivered. "He told me yesterday, Mom, what a woman I lost." For a second, pity flickered in me. 15 years is a long time to share a roof with someone, even a difficult someone. I softened. "I'll put the kettle on, Mrs. Parker. I have fresh cherry danishes." Yes, tea," she said quickly. But her eyes weren't soft, they were sharp. Scanning. Searching. "And where is the owner?" "Mr. Mitchell," she asked too casually. "He's in the garden checking the greenhouses," I lied. Aaron was actually in his study upstairs. I turned to fill the kettle. Behind me. I didn't hear dishes. I didn't hear movement. I heard something else. Click. The unmistakable shutter of a phone camera. I froze. I turned off the faucet slowly. On the small table in the hallway, right beside the kitchen door, lay a folder. And she was aiming her phone at it. The folder on the hallway table was the same one the architect had brought yesterday. The one containing the historical maps and boundary surveys. The documents proving that Thomas's oversized garage sat directly on our land. I stepped back quietly and peered into the hallway. And in an instant, every trace of pity evaporated. There stood Brenda Parker, my ex-mother-in-law, hunched over the folder like a vulture. One hand flipping through the fragile pages. The other snapping pictures as fast as she could. Her face wasn't sad. Not grieving. Not apologetic. It was cold. Predatory. Calculating. She hadn't come here to make peace. Thomas had sent her to steal evidence. So he could later claim the documents were lost. Or forged. Or never existed at all. I could have screamed. Could have thrown her out. But Aaron's words echoed in my mind. Anger is fuel. Don't burn it. Use it. So I walked back into the kitchen loud enough for her to hear. Slamming the kettle onto the stove. Brenda flinched hard. Shoved her phone into her cardigan pocket. Scrambled back into her chair, hands folded neatly like a saintly grandmother. When I entered with the tray, she was already performing. "Oh, thank you, dear," she said as she reached for a Danish. "You're so kind, unlike some people." I sat across from her. "Mrs. Parker, how is your pension? You receive the increased veteran widow amount. Is it enough for you?" She choked. What? My pension? Well, yes, of course. Marcus helps when he can, though things are difficult. Interesting, I said softly. I pulled out a thin black folder from the drawer. Aaron's lawyers had compiled it in 2 days. Because the documents say otherwise. Her smile froze. "This," I said, sliding a bank statement toward her, "is your pension account." I tapped the page. "Access restricted to only you, and Marcus. Through a power of attorney you signed 3 years ago. Remember? So he can help you with utilities." Brenda leaned in. Her eyes widened in horror. "These transactions," I continued. "Every 15th of the month, your pension is deposited. And immediately transferred out. Cleared to zero. Her lip trembled. That must be a mistake. Marcus said he was putting it into a high-interest CD. For a beach cottage. For me. There is no CD, I said sharply. And there won't be a cottage. I flipped the page. This is the account for Prestige Motors. Payments for a red luxury convertible. The owner's name? I turned the statement toward her. Tiffany Rivers. The kitchen went dead silent. Brenda snatched the paper. Her hands shook so violently that the page nearly slipped. With every line she read, her face collapsed. Aging 10 years in seconds. He took my money, she whispered. My medicine money. My savings. My future. Yes, I said quietly. For 3 years. While you skipped meals and cut corners, your son bought his mistress leather seats and custom rims. Slowly. Brenda looked up. The hatred in her eyes was bottomless. But it wasn't for me. It was for the son she had worshipped all her life. Only to learn he'd robbed her blind. She stood. Her phone fell from her pocket and clattered to the floor. She didn't even look at it. I gave birth to him, she hissed. I raised him alone. I worked double shifts. I gave him everything. She reached into her massive handbag. I tensed. But she only pulled out a pill bottle. And a ring of plain metal keys. She slid them across the table. He sent me here to steal your maps, she said hoarsely. He said, Mom, save me or we'll lose everything. Her voice twisted with bitterness. And all this time, he was stealing me. What are these keys? I asked softly. She met my eyes. The spare set. For the back door. The garage. His office. And the safes in the basement. She added, almost whispering. The ones even the IRS doesn't know about. My breath caught. Why give them to me? Brenda straightened. There was fire, cold, clean fire, in her eyes. Because in that house, she pointed toward Thomas's mansion, there is no justice left. Her voice hardened. But you, Evelyn, you were always honest. A pause. A breath. Punish him. Punish him so he remembers. Punish him for me. And then she left. Coat unbuttoned, steps unsteady. Leaving her phone behind on my floor. I stared at the cold metal keys in my hand. They cut into my palm as I squeezed them. Keys to his secrets. His crimes. His downfall. But I didn't have time to think. Today was critical. The mayor had ordered a private banquet for 50 guests. The biggest order of my career. The centerpiece. My tiered winter cherry cake. I shoved the keys deep into the drawer and rushed back to my kitchen. Across the street, behind velvet curtains. Tiffany watched my every move. She saw the boxes being loaded into the van. She knew Marcus had no money. Accounts frozen, credit cards blocked. Her only chance now was to destroy me. Her plan was simple. Idiotic. And incredibly dangerous. While I escorted Brenda out and spoke with her in the kitchen. The back door of my van, parked for loading, was left unlocked. For barely 5 minutes. And that was enough. Tiffany, hiding her mink coat under a plain gray jacket, slipped across the street. Inside the van were open bags of my finest Italian flour. For the sponge cakes I needed today. She didn't steal anything. She did something far worse. She opened a large canister of coarse cooking salt. Poured it into each bag. And stirred the top layer with her hand. Ruining everything. I went back to work, completely unaware of the sabotage waiting for me. Lena, bring the flour, I called out. We're behind schedule. We need to prep the batter now. Lena, my quick young assistant with the blonde braid, dragged in the heavy bag. I turned on the mixer. Eggs. Sugar. Vanilla. Everything went flying in. Then the flour poured in. A white cloud rose. The batter thickened, smooth, creamy, perfect. I did what my grandmother always taught me. Your tongue is your tool, Simone. Taste everything. So I dipped my pinky into the bowl. And licked it. The shock hit instantly. My entire mouth burned with salt. Not batter. Not food. A salt bomb. If I had baked this and served it to the mayor, I would have been finished. A public disgrace. A scandal. Food poisoning. Stop. I shouted so loudly Lena dropped her spatula. Stop the machines. Dump everything. What happened, Miss Hollis? She still called me by my married name. Sabotage, I hissed. The flour is poisoned. Check the other bags. We tore open every single one. Salt. Salt everywhere. 100 pounds of fine imported flour, ruined. Miss Hollis, the banquet is in 6 hours, Lena whispered, nearly in tears. We don't have any more flour that fine. Should we cancel? No cancellations, I said sharply. This is war. We sprinted into action. Grab the all-purpose flour. We'll sift it 3 times. Add extra baking powder. Adjust the ratios. Move. And somehow, we made it. The cake turned out magnificent. But it drained every ounce of energy I had. When the van finally left with the order, I leaned against the window, catching my breath. Across the street, Marcus and Tiffany stumbled out of the house. He looked beaten down, shouting, gesturing wildly. She sat in the car with that cold, stone face of hers. They were heading to the bank. Or to a lawyer. Trying to unfreeze the accounts. That's when it hit me. This was my only window. Still in my flour-covered work tunic, I pulled out the keys Brenda had given me. Mr. Mitchell, I said as I passed his study, I'll be gone half an hour. Be careful, he replied. He didn't ask where. He already knew. I crossed the street. My heart hammered in my throat. For the first time in a month, I approached the gate of my former home. Not as a wife. Not as a victim. But as a silent invader. The key slid smoothly into the lock. Click. The gate opened. Snow covered the yard. Marcus had fired the groundskeeper, and he'd never held a shovel in his life. I reached the back door. Another key. Another click. I stepped inside. Silence. Stale air. Shadows. Shopping bags littered the hallway. Unpaid bills. Wine stains. Dust on shelves where my favorite figurines once stood. This wasn't a home anymore. It was a collapsing hideout. No time for nostalgia. I rushed upstairs to what used to be our bedroom. Now Tiffany's kingdom. Clothes everywhere. Makeup spilled across the vanity. No dignity. No order. I searched everything. Drawers, empty. Under the mattress, nothing. Then I saw it. The walk-in closet. Top shelf. Something hidden behind sweaters. I pulled up a chair. Reached. Grabbed. A winter boot box. But inside. No boots. Inside was a pink velvet diary with a toy lock. And an old flip phone. I snapped the lock with a nail file. Her handwriting was childish and horrifying. October 20th. Marcus is an idiot. Bracelet is cheap. I'll tolerate him until he signs over the beach house. November 15th. He's starting to ask about the money. Need to speed things up. I'll tell him about the baby next week. That always works. Every page was worse. It wasn't a romance. It was a hunting log. Then, at the bottom, a medical file. Ultrasound. Dates. Conception, August 12th. I froze. Marcus was at a resort from August 1st to August 25th. I packed his suitcase. I took him to the airport. The baby was biologically impossible. I grabbed the second phone. Turned it on. 3 messages. 1 contact, boss. The texts made my blood run cold. He bought the pregnancy story? Yeah. Happy as a puppy. Sign the car over to me. Good. Stall. I need him deep in debt. Once he co-signs the new loan, disappear. We'll bankrupt him. I checked the sender number. And my heart dropped. Everyone in town knew this number. Dominic Sterling. Marcus's main competitor. Owner of the biggest construction conglomerate in the next state. Tiffany wasn't just a mistress. She was a planted mole. The pregnancy was a lie. Or rather, true. But not Marcus's. The affair was a planned operation. Designed to destroy him. Bleed him dry. Push him into bankruptcy. So Sterling could buy his company for pennies. And she had almost succeeded. I stuffed the diary and phone into my tunic. And then I heard it. The front door. Slam. What the hell, why is it freezing in here? Tiffany snapped. Did you forget to pay the gas bill? They were back. Too early. I froze. Escape down the stairs was impossible. I darted into the walk-in closet. Toward a small door hidden behind coats. The old maid's passageway. A narrow, dusty corridor leading to the back staircase. I slipped inside. Closed the panel. Just as the bedroom door handle turned. In the darkness, holding the evidence to my chest. I heard everything. Are you paranoid, Marcus? Tiffany snapped. No one was here. The wind opened the window. I can smell her. Marcus screamed. Vanilla, those damn sweet rolls. She was here. I slipped down the back stairs, careful not to make a sound. The service door opened with a soft click, and I vanished into the cold twilight. Behind me, Marcus's raging screams shook the walls as he tore apart the upstairs furniture. When I returned home, Elias was waiting. I placed the phone and diary on the table. My hands trembled. We have to go to the police, I burst out. Right now. This is fraud. Conspiracy. I have everything to put them both behind bars. Elias flipped calmly through the diary, then the medical chart, then took off his glasses and looked at me with that heavy, steady gaze. No, he said. The word hit me like a slap. What do you mean, no? I almost shouted. They destroyed my life. They're trying to destroy yours. Simone, Elias said gently but firmly. If you go to the police now, it'll drag on for years. Marcus's lawyers will stall. Tiffany will claim the diary is fiction. She'll say the phone was planted. It'll turn into a circus. He leaned closer. No. Revenge is best served cold. And slow. We won't just punish him. We will end his reputation so thoroughly that no one in this town will ever shake his hand again. He was right. And 2 days later, Marcus handed us the opportunity on a silver platter. That morning, a catalog from the city's antiques auction arrived. On the cover, under Rare Family Heirlooms, was a photograph that stopped my heart. My emerald jewelry set. Ring, earrings, necklace. My great-grandmother's precious set, the one that survived the revolution. The one I kept locked in the safe. Marcus had sworn in court that the safe was empty. That I'd lost them. The court believed him. Now, drowning in debt, he was selling my heritage. The auction is tonight, I whispered, gripping the catalog. He wants fast cash. Get dressed, Elias said. Put on your best dress. We're going to buy them. Buy? I stared at him. They're mine. We're not buying, he smirked. We're taking back what's yours. And trust me, the auctioneer hates thieves. That evening, I walked into the auction hall in a long emerald green gown. Elegant. Confident. Not a broken housewife. But a woman reborn. Every head turned. Marcus saw me and froze like he'd been electrocuted. Tiffany beside him kept fidgeting, tense, scanning the room. Elias guided me to my seat directly across from them. The bidding started. Small items passed quickly. Then, lot number 15, the auctioneer announced. A unique antique emerald jewelry set, late 18th century craftsmanship. Starting at $500,000. 500,000, I said calmly. Marcus twitched. He realized I wanted it back. And greed blazed in his eyes. He signaled to his planted bidder. 600, the man yelled. 700, I countered. 800, the shill barked. The room buzzed in excitement. Marcus leaned back, smirking, already counting imaginary profits. 1 million, the shill screamed. Silence fell. Every eye turned to me. Marcus smirked harder. He thought he had trapped me. But I stood. I will not raise the bid, I said clearly. The smirk died on Marcus's face. If I didn't buy it, his shill would win. And Marcus would be forced to pay auction fees he couldn't afford. But I didn't sit down. I do have a question, I continued, stepping forward. Your catalog states this set is from Mr. Thorne's family estate. Correct? Yes, the auctioneer replied. Then why, I said loudly, does the ring contain an engraving? To my beloved granddaughter Simone. Grandma Vera, 1998 foot? You could hear a pin drop. Marcus shot to his feet. She's lying. There's no engraving. This is MY family's property. We'll check, the auctioneer said icily. He lifted the ring under a jeweler's glass. A long, heavy moment passed. Then. Indeed, the engraving is there. His voice boomed through the hall. Mr. Thorne. You presented forged documents. You attempted to sell stolen property at a public auction. He pressed a button. The doors locked with a heavy clang. That's a mistake. Marcus shrieked. She switched it. Security. Get her. But 2 guards were already at his sides. Marcus A. Thorne, the officer said calmly, snapping handcuffs onto him. You're coming with us for questioning regarding attempted sale of stolen goods. Marcus kicked and screamed. Tiffany. Tiffany. Call my lawyer. Do something. But Tiffany didn't move. Instead, she stood. Calmly. Gracefully. Picked up her handbag, adjusted her mink coat. A tall man in an expensive overcoat stepped into view. Dominic Sterling. Her real partner. The father of her unborn child. Tiffany walked straight to him. He smiled, offered his arm. She took it with a glow Marcus had never seen. "Did you forget anything, darling?" Sterling asked loudly, staring Marcus dead in the eye. "No, Dominic," she purred. "There's nothing left here, but trash." Photographers swarmed them. Flashes popped. Marcus just hung in the officer's grip, staring as his perfect future walked out the door with his biggest enemy. His world turned to ash. He was released just before dawn, humiliated, broke, and alone. And the revenge had only just begun. Marcus burst into his house like a madman, ready to drag Tiffany out by the hair, ready to scream, shake her, demand answers. But the house met him with a kind of silence he had never heard before, hollow, cold, abandoned. "Tiffany," he roared, his voice cracking. "Get out here, you gold-digging tramp." No answer. He thundered up the staircase, tripping over his own feet. The bedroom door was wide open. The walk-in closet stood empty. Hangers littered the floor like the bones of some strange birds. Everything was gone. Her coats. Her dresses. Her designer shoes. Even the new Italian drapes she had forced him to order last month, gone. The safe was open, its metal door hanging crookedly. Empty. No cash. No titles. No jewelry. She had cleaned him out. Marcus dropped to his knees in the middle of the wrecked room. Reality hit him like a brick. He was alone, utterly, devastatingly alone. No money. No reputation. No wife. No mistress. Not even a scrap of dignity. And at the center of his collapse stood one name burning in his mind. Simone. "She did this," he whispered. "She turned everyone against me. She stole my luck." Hatred swelled inside him, hot, black, vile. It drowned out the fear. It drowned out reason itself. He staggered down to the garage. A red gasoline can sat in the corner. He unscrewed the cap, inhaling the sharp fumes. "You want war, Simone?" he growled. "Fine. I'll burn your little nest down. You and that old man." He took a huge swig of vodka straight from the bottle on the workbench, grabbed the gas can, and stumbled out into the freezing night. The cold slapped his face, but alcohol and insanity kept him warm. He crossed the street, splashing gasoline onto his expensive boots. Lights glowed in the mansion across the road. They were inside, celebrating, drinking tea, laughing at him. But they wouldn't be laughing for long. He reached for the iron gates of Elias Vance's estate, when bright headlights suddenly blinded him. A massive black SUV slid to a stop. The doors flew open. Two men climbed out. Not police. Collectors. The kind who didn't file paperwork, the kind who broke bones. Marcus froze. The gas can fell to the snow with a dull thud, gasoline spreading around his boots. He recognized their faces instantly. 6 months ago, he'd taken a massive high-interest loan from them to impress investors, and told Simone he'd paid them back using her grandmother's inheritance. He'd lied. He'd blown the money on Tiffany. Marcus, the bigger one, said, "Tank, a shaved-headed brute everyone feared. You don't answer calls. You ignore texts. And your interest is piling up. I'll pay." Marcus stammered, stumbling back until his spine hit Elias's fence. "I swear, I have a deal tomorrow." "You ain't got any deals," the second man said, twirling a baseball bat. Everyone heard the news. "You're bankrupt. Caught stealing grandma's jewelry. You're finished. And collecting from a dead man is bad business, so we take payment another way. Kidneys. Teeth. Whatever sold well on the dark market." They stepped closer. Marcus whimpered and slid down the fence into the snow, knowing this was it. Even the police wouldn't arrive in time. Then, the gate behind him clicked open. Stop. A woman's voice. Calm. Controlled. The men paused. Marcus lifted his head. Simone Hollis stepped out, wearing a warm housecoat over her dress. She didn't look nervous. She looked like she owned the night. Simone, get out of here. Marcus screamed. They'll kill you. She stepped over the gasoline puddle and positioned herself between him and the two men. Evening, boys, she said. Tank, isn't it? The giant blinked. Who are you? Go back inside and bake something before you get hurt. Simone didn't blink. I'm the one who actually has the money. Unlike the mess lying in the snow. She held up her phone. I know he owes you $300,000. With late fees, that's $500. But you're not getting a cent out of him. His accounts are frozen. His house is collateral. His car is leased. The men glanced at each other. She was speaking their language, profit. So what are you offering? Tank asked. I'll buy his debt, Simone said. Right now. I'll transfer the money to your offshore account. But with a discount. I'll pay you $250,000. That's low, Tank growled. It's cash, Simone said calmly. Right now. Or you walk away with nothing and a murder charge. Silence. Then Tank scratched his neck. 300. 250, Simone countered. And we sign right now. On your hood. Tank spat into the snow. Deal. You got guts, lady. One thug pulled out a crumpled transfer contract. Simone signed it, made the transfer through Elias Vance's banking app, and held out her phone. Funds sent. Tank checked his phone, nodded. It's in. See you around, Marcus. You're lucky your ex-wife has more brains than you ever did. They got into their SUV and drove off. Marcus sat in the snow, trembling, staring at Simone like she was a miracle. You saved me, he whispered. Simone, you still love me, don't you? I knew it. We can start over. I'll fix. Simone looked at him like he was a stain she was tired of cleaning. She lifted the paper she just signed. You don't get it, Marcus, she said. I didn't save you. She leaned in. I bought you. Marcus blinked. What? That loan agreement you signed? Simone said coldly. Read the fine print. The collateral includes all your property. Marcus stared at her in horror. You owe me $500,000, Simone said. Right now. Do you have it? He shook his head. Then the collateral clause activates. She pointed across the street at his mansion, the one with the ridiculous golden lions. As of this moment, that house belongs to me. She bent down until her eyes were inches from his. Get up, Marcus. Get out of my house. You have 10 minutes to grab whatever you can before I change the locks. Time starts now. Marcus didn't move. Instead, he staggered toward the porch like a crazed animal. He tripped, fell, then scrambled to the front door. He shoved it open, slipped inside, and... Slam. The heavy door shut violently. Lock 1. Lock 2. Lock 3. The bolt slid home. Marcus had barricaded himself inside the house he had just lost. Marcus was screaming from behind the locked door, his voice wild and cracking. It's my house. Mine. You'll never get it. I'm the owner, this is my castle. But I stood at the gate, holding the signed contract, the one weapon he couldn't deny anymore. The night around us was silent except for his hysterical voice, and the heavy breathing of Elias Vance, who had stepped out quietly to stand behind my shoulder. "He won't come out, Simone," Elias said in a low, grim tone. "He's cornered. And a cornered rat is always the most dangerous." Before I could answer, a window on the second floor flew open. The same window Tiffany once leaned out of to mock me. Marcus appeared there, illuminated by the street lamp, holding a double-barreled shotgun. The hunting rifle he used in photos to look manly, even though he'd never hunted a day in his life. "Get away," he screamed. "You come near my fence, I'll shoot you like a dog." There was a split second of silence. And then the shotgun boomed. Birdshot exploded into the asphalt just 3 feet from my shoes. I didn't flinch, but Elias grabbed my arm and yanked me behind the concrete post. "Call the police," he ordered sharply. "This isn't a family fight anymore. This is armed assault." 10 minutes later, our peaceful street looked like a battlefield. Sirens. Flashing lights. Search beams slicing the darkness. Police cars blocked both ends of the road. SWAT officers in full body armor spilled out of a van, taking positions behind vehicles and trees. Captain Miller, the same man who had once devoured my pies, now wore a helmet and a grim expression. He stood beside me behind an armored shield, raised a megaphone, and called out in a booming voice. "Marcus Thorne. Drop the weapon. You are surrounded. Come out with your hands up." A shot answered him, shattering the windshield of a police cruiser. Marcus shrieked from the window. "I'm not going back to jail. You'll never take me alive. I'll burn everything down." And unbelievably, neighbors were filming the whole thing like it was entertainment. "Miss Hollis," Captain Miller said, turning to me. "We can't wait this out. He's drunk, unstable, and he's got gasoline inside the house. If he lights that place, we lose the properties on both sides." His jaw tightened. "I'm ordering a breach. Sniper is ready." My stomach turned to ice. A sniper meant a kill shot. Marcus had destroyed my life. He had humiliated me. He had thrown me out in the snow like trash. But I remembered the man he once pretended to be, the one I opened a bakery with, the one who cheered when we sold our first cake. I didn't want his death on my conscience for the rest of my life. "No," I said firmly. "Don't shoot. Give me 5 minutes." "Miss Hollis," the captain warned, "this is dangerous. He could fire again." "He won't shoot me," I said. "If I talk to him on the phone, he'll listen. He still thinks he has a choice. He just can't see it yet." I pulled out my phone. The number I had dialed 1,000 times in 15 years. I called. The rings felt endless. I stared at the window where Marcus hid, praying that for once, he'd pick up. Finally. A click. Heavy, ragged breathing. "What do you want?" he croaked. "Come to watch me die? Is that it?" "Marcus," I said softly, steadily, "look out the window." He didn't answer. "Do you see the snipers?" I continued. "If I don't stop them, you will be dead in 2 minutes." "Let them kill me," he screamed. "I have nothing. You took everything." "I only took back what you threw away," I replied coldly. "But before you pull that trigger, you need to hear the truth." "Shut up," he snarled. "No. You're going to listen." I took a breath and cut straight to the bone. "You're crying over Tiffany? Your great love? Then hear this. Her pregnancy? 16 weeks. I paused. And you were in Palm Springs the entire month that baby was conceived. Silence. Then. That's a lie," he whispered, but the certainty was gone. "She wasn't your lover," I said. She was Dominic Sterling's. His spy. His pawn. His puppet. Every word hit him like a hammer. She used you to drain your money, ruin your business, push you into debt, so Sterling could buy your company for pennies. And when you ran out of money, she threw you away like trash. Another shuddering breath. And your mother? I added. You wonder how I got into your house. How I knew about the safes. Silence on the line. Brenda gave me the keys, I said. Because you were stealing her pension. Every month. For 3 years. You robbed your own mother for Tiffany's car. His voice cracked into a pitiful sob. Mom. You have nothing left, Marcus, I said gently, but without pity. No money. No family. No home. You're standing in the ruins you created. But you can still survive this. Come out. I swallowed hard. Not for me. Do it so Dominic Sterling doesn't get to laugh at your corpse on the evening news. Seconds ticked by like anvils. Captain Miller raised his hand behind me, the silent order for the sniper. Marcus, I whispered into the phone, put the gun down. Come out. It's over. The line went dead. I lowered my phone. My heart hammered so violently I could barely breathe. The captain stared at me. I shook my head sharply, wait. And then. The window above slammed shut. A long moment passed. Then the front door lock clicked. Once. Twice. Slowly. The heavy oak door opened. Marcus stepped out onto the porch. No coat. Shirt half open. Bare-handed in the freezing air. His face was gray. His eyes empty. His body swayed like the ground was dissolving beneath him. But the gun wasn't in his hands. He lifted his empty palms into the cold air. And the whole street held its breath. The SWAT officers slowly lowered their rifles. But none of them stepped out of cover. Marcus took one step, then another. Down the stairs of the mansion that no longer belonged to him. The same palace he once lorded over like a king. His eyes stared straight ahead, but at nothing. Not the police, not the flashing lights. Not even me. He reached the very spot where, just a month earlier, he had thrown my gym bag into the snow. Where he nearly ran me over with his SUV. He stopped right in front of me. His lips trembled, trying to form a word. Maybe forgive me, maybe a curse. But no sound came out. Then it happened. A sudden, horrible distortion twisted his face. The right side of his mouth fell. His eyelid sagged. His hand flew toward his temple as if something inside his skull had exploded. His knees buckled. He collapsed into the snow like a dropped sack of cement. Right at my feet. The same patch of snow where I had once sat crying in despair. Medic! I screamed, diving toward him. SWAT rushed in. Paramedics pushed through. I turned him over. His eyes were open. But frozen with animal terror. He tried to speak, tried to move. But his body refused to obey. He was trapped inside himself. Stroke, the EMT said sharply, shining a light into Marcus's pupils. Massive hemorrhagic stroke. We need to move. Now. He's on the clock. They lifted him onto the stretcher. Red siren lights washed over the snow, over the trees, over my hands. And then the ambulance tore away into the night. Carrying my ex-husband, my enemy, the man who had tried to destroy me. But ultimately destroyed himself. I stood at the open gate, still holding my phone. Wind tugged at the hem of my coat. The world around me blurred. The war was over. The enemy had fallen. But there was no victory in me. Only silence. And the cold imprint his body had left in the snow. 3 months passed like a single breath. Winter. That endless, punishing winter. Finally loosened its grip. The snowbank where I once wept melted away, revealing tender green grass. Spring arrived not just as a season, but as a cleansing. I stood on the porch of my former home. The house from which I had been thrown out like trash. Now, the golden lions were gone. The pretentious wrought iron initials were gone. We had torn down the fence dividing the two estates. Elias's historic mansion and my old palace were now one. A single open campus. Today was opening day. The entire town gathered on the lawn. The same neighbors who once whispered behind curtains now stood with bouquets. The mayor, architects, bakers, teachers. All here to witness the transformation. The air smelled of vanilla, warm rolls, and apple blossoms. A simple, elegant sign hung over the entrance. Willow Creek Culinary School and Hope Women's Crisis Center. I straightened the soft green folds of my dress. I didn't feel like a victim anymore. I felt like the foundation of this place. My eyes scanned the crowd. Brenda Thorne stood in the front row, holding her neighbor's little granddaughter's hand. She looked older, smaller. But no longer afraid. We weren't friends, and we never would be. But I gave her the guest house and a small garden to care for. I didn't take revenge on the broken. Tiffany wasn't here. Yesterday, I saw her at a supermarket checkout. No makeup, roots grown in, wearing a cheap uniform. Scanning groceries like a machine. Dominic Sterling dumped her a week after the auction. The moment she was no longer useful. She saw me that day. Recognized me. Her shoulders folded inward, as if she wished the floor would swallow her. I didn't approach. I felt nothing. Dear friends. Elias's deep voice pulled me back. He stood at the microphone wearing a sharp gray suit, silver hair neatly combed. No one would ever believe he had once sat shivering on a bench like a forgotten man. For many years, he said, this house symbolized greed. Those who lived here believed money could solve everything. They were wrong. He looked at me. Held out his hand. I walked up beside him, blinking back tears. 3 months ago, Elias continued. A woman saved my life by giving away the last thing she had, her warmth. He opened a folder, revealing official papers. My time is limited. I have no family. Only gratitude. So today, I want to announce. I have legally adopted Simone Hollis as my daughter. She is my heir. The rightful owner of this entire estate. The crowd erupted. Applause thundered. Some cried. People shouted, "Bravo!" Elias wrapped his arms around me, fatherly and warm. You earned every brick in this home, daughter, he whispered. Together we cut the red ribbon. The celebration began. Music, laughter, clinking glasses. But I slipped away for a moment. I walked to the bench near the gate. That bench. Once broken and freezing. Now restored, painted gold. A bronze plaque gleamed on the backrest. I traced the raised letters with my fingertips. Kindness is the only currency that matters. I got into my car. But I wasn't driving home. My path led across town. To the city nursing facility. A bleak brick building where the halls smelled of bleach and hopelessness. I walked down the corridor. Nurses nodded respectfully. They knew who paid the bills. I entered the private room. Marcus lay on the bed. The stroke hadn't killed him. It had done something far, far worse. Doctors called it locked-in syndrome. A prison of the mind. He heard everything. Understood everything. saw everything. But he couldn't move a hand. Not a finger. Not even blink on command. He was alive, but trapped inside a body that had betrayed him. When I stepped inside, his eyes snapped toward me. A spark burst in them. Hatred, shame, pleading, all mixed together. He recognized me instantly. He saw how strong I had become. How calm. How unshakable. I walked up to the bed, but I didn't sit. I would never sit at his feet again. I stood tall. "Hello, Marcus," I said softly. His pupils widened. Maybe he thought I came to gloat. Maybe he thought I came to end his life support. But I didn't need revenge anymore. His own choices had delivered it. "We opened the center today," I said gently. "The whole town came. Even your mother." His eyes filled with disbelief, and then dread. "Everyone asked about you," I continued. "But they forgot just as quickly. You're the past now, Marcus. Dust." I opened my wallet and took out a $1 coin. A simple, cold coin. I placed it on the bedside table beside him. The metallic clink echoed like a hammer strike in the silent room. "Do you know why you're here?" I asked quietly. "In a private room, on clean sheets. And not in the general ward. Where the forgotten die." His eyes trembled. "Because I pay for this place. Every month. Your accounts are gone. Tiffany stole what she could. Your house is mine. You own nothing." A tear rolled down the side of his face. Helpless tears he couldn't wipe away. I leaned close to his ear. "You don't own a single nail in this room," I whispered. "You were nothing but the hired help here. And now?" My voice dropped to a razor edge. "You're fired. Get out." The exact words he had once thrown at me. The words that started this entire nightmare. He squeezed his eyes shut, trying to escape the memory. But he couldn't move. Couldn't turn away. Couldn't cover his ears. "You said I was just the help," I murmured. "Now I serve an entire town. Hundreds of people eat because of me. Live because of me." I straightened, looking down at him one final time. "I forgive you, Marcus," I said softly. "Not because you deserve forgiveness. But because you're nothing to me now. Just an empty space. In a life I have already rebuilt." I turned and walked out. The click of my heels on the tile sounded like a metronome, marking the beginning of my new life. Outside, sunlight poured over me. The wind lifted my hair. I breathed in the sweet spring air. I was free. For the first time in years. Truly free. I'm really glad you stayed with me till the end. And that I could share my story with you. If it touched you, show your love by liking the video. And subscribing to Grandma Memorial Stories. Tell me in the comments. Which city are you watching from, and what time is it right now? I love knowing where all my amazing listeners are tuning in from. I share new life stories for you every single day. Now, pick your next story. 2 of my most popular ones should appear on your screen right now.